We are back here at the Rainbow Six North American League. Doe and Jacob Jesse here with you at the analyst desk, and this one is gonna be good. DarkZero, our Rainbow Six Charlotte Major champions, taking on their rival Spacestation Gaming, a team that they knocked out of contention to go to that major in the very last map of the last stage. It is gonna be good. Let's recap our scores on the day though so far. First, of course, we saw that close match between TSM and Sonics where TSM was able to take it 7-5. Then a not so close match. Xset kind of crushing Mirage 7-1. And then Parabellum 4-7 or 7-4 rather over Astralis. And you know, the thing is like, with the way Parabellum's been playing yesterday and today, I don't even know if we can call that an upset. They've been playing so good. I guess on paper it is, but
yeah.
Man, Parabellum looked like a solid team.
I think in hindsight, that's not going to look like an upset because I think Parabellum are really going to have a good stage. But I think certainly going into it, I mean, that was not what most of us were predicting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go into another one that has the upset potential where Samsung takes on the major champions. I guess you could call it a little bit of one, but you know these teams are going to be putting it all out there on the map. It's going to be good. DarkZero, of course, like we said so many times, like they're the current reigning international champs. Yeah. They're here not only to defend that title, but they're here to defend their honor against Spacestation.
They're longtime rivals. These two teams have been battling in the North American League for longer than any other team, at least in NA Tier 1 competition.
At least 4 years.
Right? Yeah, these two orgs have been in North America longer than any other at a Tier 1 level, so they are very familiar with each other. Of course, that one game that we mentioned just the last time that they played, the final game of Stage 1, that was 7-5. If we get something anywhere near as close as that today, this will be a good game.
Should be indeed.
This old rivalry, it just goes back deep in like the blood in the veins of everybody who's familiar with like the way that NA guys work together. Like,
I will say the last 3 times these teams have met, DarkZero has come out on top. That counts maps, not matches, because they did play a best of 3 back at the NA finals. So DarkZero on a bit of a winning streak here. SSG, that's not to say that they have not fought back though. They've done very well historically throughout the years against DarkZero. These two teams have faced off against each other very, very often, and I think we should be in for a good game today.
You know, I feel like kind of behind it all, you've got Canadians sort of like playing with both teams as toys, right? It's like, and then Space Station won, like, and then he flips over. Oh, but now DarkZero, it's their turn to win. You know, at the end of the day,
kid.
He's the one. Yeah, he's the one kind of helming both of those squads, getting wins against each other there. But it's going to be cool. But it's not just all about Canadian, right? As much as he has history with both of these squads here, Pambazoo on DarkZero has really been kind of a standout player, both of the major and yesterday too.
You think? This
This
man's been on fire for a while. It felt like
time.
My concern back when he first jumped onto this DarkZero team was, will they use him effectively? Because it felt like they didn't know what they were going to do with NJR. They were trying some new things out, removing some of the old core, putting some new guys back in. And Panda, he's stepped up to the occasion, but he's done it in a way in which the DZ system could really put him at the forefront, and everyone benefits as a result. He was insane at the major, and he just kept that pace going against a Beast Coast squad that looked pretty hampered, unprepared for the kind of aggression that these guys were going to show. And Pamba just never feels like he's ever really slowed down. Ever since like his first stage where we kind of had some of those questions, where does he fit with Hyper? Is he primary entry? What the heck is he meant to be doing with this team? Now everybody knows his role is hard to find, and his stardom is also hard to find as well.
Pamba, what really impressed me about him was, sure, he was the major MVP, and that is a very hard thing to achieve, but he managed to do it, playing on the Finca. But then he comes into DarkZero's first game here on our new stage, and he rocks the Azami. For 2 out of 3 of the rounds they managed to play on defense, and he did so well with it. He, I think, had one of the strongest Azami performances that we've seen. Maybe not quite because he didn't get very many rounds on it because DarkZero won too early, but I still thought he did really, really well in those couple of rounds. He was able to rock the operator. So for him to be so good in one area and then we get into a slightly different meta and he's still so good with the new aspects of the new meta, I think that's very impressive for a young player.
Absolutely agreed. I mean, DarkZero, obviously a ton going for them at every role on the team right now, but we got to look at the opponents as well. Spacestation Gaming, a solid start to their stage. They looked pretty good yesterday. And, you know, they are a team. They're in a situation to challenge DarkZero. And I feel like it doesn't matter where these two teams are in the standings. They're always going to play it close.
Yeah, you'd hope so, right? And this is just the quality of the players, right? They've got such long-standing players on both of these lineups. SSG are one of the few organizations in the NAL right now that don't actually have any like really young blood on their squad anymore. They are almost entirely veterans on this roster. In fact, I would say that they've got 5 vets that have been playing this game forever lined up on their team. Despite the fact that they may not be as young and chipper as some of their opponents, I still feel like they do a fantastic job. And going around the block a couple of times, I mean, that experience shows off in more ways than one.
I don't think they're necessarily worried about their team turning into a retirement home, but because we've seen so many of these squads pick up young guns, whether it comes from CL or even just the tier 3 scene, because remember, Gunnar never even played a snap in CL to begin with.
Yeah.
I do wonder how this SSG squad is trying to mold in with this new version of the game that we've seen. Obviously, they adapted to things like attack or repick and all the new maps considerably faster than a team like the Sonics did, but we're still looking for them to find a groove they have yet to really settle into yet.
SSG are a team that will be surprising. They will always bring out something that you're not expecting, whether it's a new map that doesn't make a ton of sense on paper, whether it's the new operators. They were the first team that played Sens in official competitive play.
Early adopters.
Didn't go very well. They got slammed on that Oregon attack onto the Dorms bomb site, but still, I did feel like SSG were kind of, they're the trendsetters, right, in North America, and I'm anticipating today we're going to see them bring out a map that maybe they haven't played in a long time. They're going to bring out some brand new strats that they've never shown off before on a televised or a Twitch broadcast, and they're likely going to surprise DZ. I anticipate DZ will be able to handle it because DZ are so good at this.
I felt like we were about to get a predictions preview there for a second.
But
going away I didn't expect.
Listen, SSG, I think they've got a lot of ideas, some good, some bad, and it's just going to come out on the day kind of where those strats actually lie.
What best ideas do you think they're going to have that will be most important against DarkZero?
I mean, I think a lot of it is just like moving around with the zombie still, right?
Sure.
We were able to see a lot of like cool setups as well, even with some of the not as new, but still newer operators like Osa over on Oregon. I really like that meeting attack. Not that it was brand new, but still, like, I like the way that they were utilizing it, right? They didn't have to try to go through the dining side. They didn't have to really focus too much on that top floor. They set up that shield on the stairs, and they were able to utilize it really well to dominate the post-plant situation. So it's those little things that SSG can rock sometimes, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think we'll see some cool stuff today.
All right, well, we're going to see where the map is, or what the map is that's going to be picked. The bands are in. Let's find out where we're going. And to start us off, Skyscraper and Oregon eliminated.
Yeah, Oregon being taken off the board first from Space Station. Their last 2 games that they've played in official competition have both been Oregon. Obviously, one of them yesterday, which they lost, and the other one going back against DarkZero. The final game of Stage 1 was their second most recent matchup in official competition. They lost that one, of course, as well, as I'm sure they do remember. Next couple of maps to go are Cafe and Villa. Villa being banned out by SSG is also somewhat interesting. For DarkZero, they've played it twice in the NAL last stage and then just lost to Astralis on the day of the finals in Charlotte at the Major Grand Finals. So that's a map they're very familiar with. SSG have yet to play it. And then Clubhouse and Chalet coming through. Clubhouse is probably SSG's best map if you go far enough back to SI. They haven't played it recently, but for DarkZero, it's a bit of an interesting ban because they also have been very strong on it. I think we're kind of getting to the point at the end of the ban phase where DarkZero are just kind of happy to go anywhere.
If we're still looking for that objective for SSG to go to a new map, I feel like it's on the table. Like, maybe a theme park on the cards, but DarkZero, no, they decide it's something that they already have enough VODs on because they are 3 and 4 on that map over the course of the past 3 months. As far as Bank is concerned, for SSG, they played it 3 times and they had like a 2-game win streak through the first week and then played it later on in the stage, I believe against Beast Coast, and that was one of the primary reasons why they didn't make it to the Charlotte Major in the first place, was that really weird mid-season loss. So we head to Border, which again is still relatively new for Space Station. The only time they've played it since its reintroduction was a 7-5 loss to Astralis, where they had a bit of a late comeback, so maybe they have some ideas that just in that particular matchup took a long time to percolate and really come to the forefront. Here's the kicker. Since its reintroduction to the map pool, DarkZero are 3-0 on this bad boy. In both the NAL and Charlotte Major, they have yet to lose this thing. So I wonder how Space Station are about to carve through that plan.
Some maps possibly going DarkZero's way, but who knows? You know, Space Station, they kind of made this one happen, so they got to play on it. Time to make predictions, though. It's time to find out what our casters and analysts think as far as who is going to win this map between DarkZero and Space Station Gaming. First, we'll send it over to our casters, Azami and Azami. Oh, wait. Hold on. That's actually Blue and Stokes.
Hey.
It's hard to tell with those jackets on.
Stealing our drip, what the heck?
You stole my, what the heck?
Actually, Rob, you should have checked your locker there, bud. You know, gotta make sure to lock those things back up, Jesse.
We're back in high school again.
That is disturbing.
I didn't even know I had a locker.
There are lockers on this map.
What do you got? What are you gonna pick? What do you got?
Oh, you know what, John? I will take it from you.
Okay,
for
thank you.
this one. For
I
this
need to
one,
think
okay.
clearly, so.
Yeah, you know what? We're just gonna make it real simple. Plain Jane for me, Doa. It's got to be DarkZero here. I think
All right.
they're firing on all cylinders. They're looking really solid, especially in their matchup yesterday, coming off of Charlotte. And I'm not one to doubt Troy Canadian. This is North America. This is his region, and we're living in it.
I'm going to echo those thoughts and mainly put on the point, too, that SSG just didn't really look great when playing with the online conditions yesterday, so I feel like that's a little bit of a factor affecting them right now as well. DarkZero doesn't seem to be affected by that as much, and for the reasons Stokes just mentioned, too, I'm going with DarkZero.
All right, 2 for DarkZero from the casters. And hey, again, it's hard to pick against the champs. It's hard to pick against the champs, even in a situation like this.
We said the same thing about TSM last stage.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But the thing is at least we have one day of results that seem to say DarkZero is a safe pick. But at the same time, is it DarkZero? You could pick Spacestation. I don't even think you'd be wrong for that. I think there's plenty of reasons to do it.
Funnily enough, I don't think this ban phase would have gone this way if Lycan wasn't confident that SSG could pull something out here.
For sure.
But I know that that's an excuse that I use a lot, because if you allow a map to get this deep into the pool, and Spacestation were the ones that had the option between either this or Bank, there's a reason why it's Border and not the map that they played 3 times in the NAL already. That being said, I do still like DarkZero's play overall, but expect this one to be the one that maybe, not that I'm rooting against it, but I'm not very confident in this pick simply because of that fact.
Well, so the other thing you have to keep in mind, a little bit of pressure on you here, is that the fans are currently beating you in predictions. I don't know if you
They're
look
on
at the
top.
percentage there, but
I mean, hey, if they beat me, I'm retiring, so that's fine.
tied with Jesse as well. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I think that it's hard to pick against DarkZero, as you've said. I mean, they're the major champions, and they looked so good in that first play
But
day.
you're going to pick against them anyway, aren't you?
No, I'm not going to pick against DarkZero until I get a reason to.
I was trying to goad it out of him.
I think, for SSG's sake, I do think if they can maybe clean up what Rampy's doing on the roam, if he can stay alive a little bit more, win some of those opening engagements when he's on the defense, and as well, if SSG have some really creative strats for Border, and I'm sure they do,
Hope they do.
then this is absolutely a winnable game for Spacestation, but you just don't go against DarkZero until you've seen something that indicates
Until
they're
we see
beatable.
him actually fall off the wagon, yeah, this is the pick all the way.
yeah, it's tough to say anything else. Let's see what the coin says, though, as we get another one in for DarkZero. We'll get to the fan vote in a moment, but as usual, team on the left, Spacestation is heads, team on the right. DarkZero, that's going to be tails. Let's flip the coin. I didn't even have to look at it that time. I'm getting so good at this.
Yeah, but you can feel it now.
Oh, it's tails. Okay, the coin
No.
says DarkZero going
Don't
with
bet
the
against
major
Troy.
champions. There you go. Yep, the coin's too afraid to do it. Let's see what the fan vote has to say as well. I would imagine it's probably going to be DarkZero. It is DarkZero across the board. I think this is the first time where we've had every single entity picked the same team.
At least today,
Or
I thought we had one that was all the same yesterday.
No, I think this is
I
our
think this is
first
the
time.
first time.
We're going to get memed on if Spacestation win.
We're only 2 days in there, but I mean, the thing
Images
is,
that precede unfortunate events.
I was going to say, 10 seconds before disaster. Yeah, screenshot this one. Like, Space Station's still absolutely a great team, absolutely has a chance to do this. But right now, the predictions, at least, going DarkZero's way. But you know what? When it comes down to it, it's down to the players on the map. They're the ones who decide. We'll find out in a moment. Let's check out the community poll, though. Before we get into the map, it's going to be Rampy or Canadian. That's it. That's the question. Judge them by whatever criteria you choose to. It sounds like you, the internet, have an opportunity to decide.
Which one of them would win a 40-yard dash? Which one of them cooks a better lasagna? Which one,
Which one of them is a better ballroom dancer? Who knows? After they retire from Rainbow Six, that's always an option for celebrities.
You never retire from Rainbow Six, and Troy is the proof of that.
That is true.
That's true. All right. Well, we'll have to take a break on that one. We're also going to take a break before we get into this map, but not a long one. So do not go anywhere. Don't touch that browser. Rainbow Six NAL will be back in just a few.
You said hello and I lost my control in just one tiny second. You do to me what I've seen in the movies, but this really happening. My mind explodes. I can feel my bones shaking to the
for you to see your son on such a huge stage, right?
You know, I'm happy for the team.
The team's been doing well. We're very excited to see Paul play.
You said you were going to do it.
I mean, I've said it multiple times before. I'm not done, mother. There's absolutely no one to highlight in particular. Everyone did their part. We all start again tomorrow. I'm Canadian, and this is the NAL.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, your champions of the most recent major, DarkZero, and their journey to get there real quick before we jump back here to our NAL studio and get ready for one of our final matches of the day. One of the most interesting matches of Stage 2 as well, given the reputation behind both of these teams, the stories playing into it. It's DarkZero going up against Spacestation game. Before we get to that, though, you may have noticed, there's some very cool jackets, aren't they?
You're looking pretty spiffy there, my friend.
It's a very nice crane. I think that's a crane. I really hope I'm right about that.
I do believe so as well.
Very beautiful Azami-focused design, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you guys didn't know, you guys can actually go over to the Ubisoft shop and check things out over at merch.ubisoft.com and pick up these jackets. They're beautiful. We also got some other stuff, so you don't have to be like me and have nothing underneath this jacket. So it's really nice. So go over, pick up some shirts, get yourself a hat, get yourself a hoodie or something like that. These jackets alone, they're super, super comfortable. Trust me, the cloth is on my skin.
We're like 3 zipper pulls away from having to up the rating on this show for a second.
PG-13 all of a sudden.
Well, let's bring it back down to the discussion on this game, of course. Quite an interesting game, of course, just because of the fact that, again, these teams are going to be playing online, so there's like a little bit of a play style difference is more likely going to show up because of that. And we saw that come into effect a little bit for Space Station yesterday. Sky specifically was really having some trouble performing. That extended to quite a few of the other members on the SSG roster as well, with the exception of Hot and Cold, who gave us a barnstorming performance in their game versus XSET yesterday. Unfortunately, just wasn't enough because Spirits brought an even more barnstorming performance that ultimately outwitted the prowess of Hot and Cold and the rest of SSG in yesterday's game.
Absolutely. There was fires set under both of these players, and Spirits just edged out Space Station by the tiniest of margins. And unfortunately enough as well, SSG just didn't have the same backup that XSET did inside of that situation. So it's just kind of unfortunate for them, but they're back here today and ready for war up against DarkZero. And we know the history in between these two rosters. It's one that's got a lot of bleak moments, but it is really sewn into the history of North America here.
Yeah, especially for Space Station 2, just the legacy that they've created here and the multitude of rosters they've been able to put up to near championship status or outright championship status, of course, when they had Canadian on the roster a few years back and were able to lift the hammer from it. So looking to replicate that once again and continuing to move. So unfortunately, Stage 1, a little bit of a miss as the team unfortunately just missed out on being able to make it into the major there, but going to be looking to make up for that this stage. I want to see if they're able to do so. Dropping the match versus XSET, not the greatest start to things, but again, I want to emphasize the online factor to it, especially when you consider XSET's playstyle very in your face, very swing heavy. So with the ping and play, there is some advantages that are given to XSET. The good news is, for Space Station coming into today's game, DarkZero doesn't play like that at all for the most part here. They're a much more methodical, much more strat-heavy team, which means that SSG are going to have a little bit more room to breathe in that department.
Yeah, I think the big issue for SSG right now is what is going to be the answer to DarkZero, because what we saw from them from Charlotte was their ability to break down this newfound aggressive, very flow-type play style, and they did a pretty bang-up job of it, obviously, you know, going to all 5 maps up against Astralis, which was quite the banger of a grand final, but it's obviously just proven that this kind of playstyle isn't something that's going to be a deterrent up against DarkZero. They can stay coordinated, they can fight up against that kind of flow state as well. There's a million different ways that they can try and break down these maps up against a myriad of different squads. They're going to try it here yet again today as we get a sneak preview into the DZ household in Las Vegas.
Yep, absolutely. Their beautiful facility.
It's a beautiful mouse, by the way, there. That's one of the new final mouses. I think that's the Poseidon one, if I remember correctly.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I'm not even joking you. Final Mouse actually put diamonds inside of these things. If you wanted to buy like the more expensive version, it was like it was some ungodly price, like almost like $1,000 or something. Just ridiculous.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, they do make some pretty nice mice. But either way, past the sidebar.
Yeah, once again, just waiting for the rest of our teams to get into the lobby, by the way. If anyone is curious as to what the delay is at this point, we're just waiting for a few players from DarkZero to hop in, and then we'll be good to go, and I think that they are working on that now. Should just be a few more moments, and you can see some of the highlight players front and center here on the camera, those that were able to really pop off back at the recent major. Panbazoo, definitely one to highlight here with regard to that, and he's going to need to do so again here today if DarkZero wants another victory versus one of their greatest rivals in the league in SSG, and one that, as we saw during stage 1, if my memory serves me correctly, had to compete directly against to be able to make it to the major and eventually lift the trophy for the first time for DarkZero in their organization's history. Been waiting a long time for that, as of course DarkZero came into the scene, if I remember correctly, late 2018.
Yes.
And other than, I think they managed to win one of the online majors during the 2020 season. But aside from that, unfortunately, they've never been able to get that LAN victory despite being in the scene for so long. Finally, of course, changing that fate. Very well-deserved change of fate as well, as this DarkZero roster that they brought into the 2022 season is absolutely crushing it right now.
Yeah, now Canadian is one of the most winningest people to IGL a team, which is truly impressive. 2 hammers as well as a major under his belt. I mean, he said it himself. He might have the best chip recipe of all time. So it's working for him, which means it's working for us here in North America. Isn't that right? And as John was saying, folks, we're just moments away from hopping into this game, which is going to be Border. Not exactly a map that I thought I would see between SSG and DarkZero. I thought we'd be going to something that was, well, first things first, a little larger. Border, very congested when it comes down to it. You can affect a lot of these sites from the outside of the map, so it's going to make it quite interesting to see what these defensive setups are, as they require quite a bit from just the defensive unit overall. They're really going to be trying to force themselves to hold a lot of different parts of the map, because as soon as you give the offense a foothold in a map like Border, they're practically just going to decimate you when it comes to the rest of your hold throughout the map. So we'll just see how things start off once we get into the game here, but as we are just moments away, so waiting on a few DZ members to hop into the lobby.
It also is a fairly free-flowing map, too, with regards to the freedom that the defenders have. It's unlike some of our other more straightforward maps where our defenders are actually going to be able to roam around the map quite freely, depending on the site, of course, but we'll generally have that freedom across the large majority of them, and that's going to be getting in the way of the more straightforward type of clears that teams like DarkZero and in some instances SSG would generally trend to go towards. So I'm very curious to see the type of playstyle we get out of both of these teams because we're going to that map and because it's a bit of a departure from what we have come to expect on either one of these rosters here. So once again, just working on getting those players into the lobby, and then it's just a few seconds away from getting started. We're very excited to be jumping into it, of course, to see who will top this one out. Keep in mind the records for both these teams. Only one Playday in, of course, but DarkZero with a win already under their belt. Spacestation not so much, unfortunately, as they did drop their game versus Exit yesterday, so looking to make up for that to keep them competitive and near the top of the charts here for Stage 2 of the NAL.
And full T-Poo at the back. Just got to check the timeline real quick. I'm sure everything's right as rain when it comes to the R6 community, which is, I mean, sometimes we're good, sometimes not so much, but hey, it is what it is. You know, it just depends on the day that you want on Twitter, right? As for DarkZero, though, we're still awaiting on one singular member. There's an empty chair here, somebody more than likely running to the bathroom, and, well, guys, if you really want the game to start, just start tweeting at Panbazoo. Just annoy him. Just constantly tweet at him.
Like they're trying to, the Canadians
They're trying to get him into the lobby real quick. He's probably talking to him, and he's like, go knock on the bathroom door. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, but we are just waiting on Panbazoo. Once he gets back into the playroom, we will soon be playing the video game.
Yep, absolutely the case here. Some other players that we're looking to step up is, honestly, entirely the most of the SSG rosters. Yesterday's performance was a little lackluster. Like we already mentioned Hot and Cold doing well, so that's a bit of an exception.
You know what? I'll take this from you for just a split second. I think the big thing that we need to talk about when it comes to SSG is a lot of the missed moments from Skies yesterday. Skies had a lot of opportunities to close out quite a few different rounds, and it's either he missed his shots or just couldn't make the play that was necessary in the situation. And it's just super unfortunate for SSG because, as you were saying, there was plenty of opportunity for them to take the game yesterday. They just didn't have it in the tank.
Even had a good start, if I'm recalling the way the game paced itself out correctly. SSG, if I'm remembering it, managed to get themselves with a pretty good streak of rounds going into their favor there and denying Exit out quite a bit at the beginning of the game, but unfortunately fell by the wayside as we got later into that first half. That's where Exit really started started to take control, finding their own confidence. That as we flipped sides and Exa got under control of things in the second half on the defensive end of it, that's when it really took off for them. And unfortunately, SSG just had a lot of trouble leveraging their attacks appropriately on Oregon.
Yeah, it was hard fought, like you were saying, but at the end of the day, you don't get the dub. It's definitely going to be something you look back upon and not exactly going to be the happiest with. But
only first game of the stage.
Yeah, that's
the core
a big
takeaway.
thing. And if I'm remembering correctly, I also think it went into overtime here, but I will double
yeah.
check just to make sure, and I will trust you there, John. So it means that they at least got 1 point from their matchup yesterday, but obviously they wanted that dub, which would have been much, much more important to the overall story of what is being built up already. And just to remind you, folks, these stages happen pretty fast, so just because these games are at the early part of Stage 2 does not mean that they're not going to have some very serious ramifications down the line.
Well, either way, we've got everybody into the server now. Now it's just a matter of getting all of our teams ready, which I think they're good to go. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies once more for the delay of game. We did have to get everybody together, but it looks like we are ready to start and go live onto Border now for a second to last match of the day.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And just to check up on things from yesterday, XSET actually took that in regulation. That's why I wanted to check it really quickly.
Yeah,
it was a 7-4 dub. The one that you and I were thinking of was the Oxygen Parabellum game that went to 8-7 on Theme Park. And honestly, that's what made the choice really difficult for me today, going into things for Parabellum versus Astralis. I thought Astralis might be able to edge out Parabellum, but they looked so dynamic yesterday against Oxygen on Theme Park, and they're not a slouch of a team at all when it comes to that map. So Parabellum starting to light things up when it comes to North America, so have to be excited for them as they were able to achieve their very first dub today. DarkZero maybe on the clock at the current moment with their defensive bans. Thatcher and Ying off the board here for, I almost said Villa, for Border. Going to be making quite a bit of sense. Azami also going to be making quite a bit of sense as well. She'll just add to the enormous amount of utility that we played off of site if left open.
All right, so heading back in, we got one final ban coming up here, and it's going to be the last one from SSG. They're going to knock out Mira, so a few interesting bans to be talked about here, mainly the Ying one being knocked out, as we have seen Ying become a little bit more of a mainstay, similarly to Border here. Or rather, similarly to Oregon is what I meant to say. They're on Border, so we're going to be seeing her banned out quite often as a result of that. Thatcher's kind of self-explanatory. You can say the same thing for Azami and Mira, though, as we've been seeing Azami picked pretty much every single time she is available, so teams are trending towards banning her out quite often, I believe is going to be the case, and we'll more than likely start to see more and more teams lean into that if they don't have plans to use her of their own.
All right, and you know, John, I might have to fight the social media manager. I'm just saying, I might have to.
What happened?
They posted me unzipping the jacket.
I mean, are you surprised? Like, what else did you expect?
Man, hey, that's my own content. That's, you know, like, I was trying to build that up for a different audience, okay, John? All right, I mean, past that moment, SSG is going to be starting things out on defense here. DarkZero obviously going to be on offense. Really like the Buck play that we're going to be seeing out of NJR. I hope he sticks onto that. Buck is a fantastic choice for soft breach. When it comes to Border, there's a lot of different vertical angles that you can abuse with that skeleton key from underneath, making it very difficult for the SSG defense to play in a lot of these pivotal positions. As for Spacestation, going to be starting things off in the Armory Lockers defense. This top floor already being put together pretty quickly here. See what they got done with the triple wall. Just a little bit of soft destruction, not sweating it too much. They will reinforce Taco or Suicide, whatever you guys call it, that little single panel there inside of Office, just to make sure that nobody can be pre-fired through it, and some of the SSG members can stick around the area for a little while longer and attempt to hold down that space. DarkZero now out and about on the map, so begin their entry points, or at least opening them here on Border.
Going to continue to see the DarkZero members begin to drone out this interior setup from SSG. So it'll be some time before we get that first attempt at a kill or so. As we'll see, Rampy actually have to continue opening up a few of the floorboard positions just to make sure that they have all options available to them as they work their way in, such as this top down right here. And that's why Panville will chuck his first nade above it there to make sure that anyone from SSG who was looking down that is not going to be doing so, or at least will think twice about heading back to it as we get deeper into this round.
First minute already off the board, but you can see how very close the Space Station members are to this DarkZero squad. Quite a few of them currently outside of CCTV as the drones will warm back up. More than likely discover a hot and cold sitting behind the bookshelf momentarily. And just press back towards that door. hasn't been droned out just yet. I actually will end up having to take out one. Just for a split second, thought the alibi clone there was a person, but obviously not. You get yet another drone here as well. So it's been a slight trade of utility back and forth. That's really all that's happened until Rampy will be able to take down his former IGL Canadian.
Canadian down for the count. 4 members of DarkZero still in the fight, however, with a little under half the round to play it out here. You can see as well they're starting to establish some presence on the first floor, and with a buck and play for NJR, that could lead into a formula to get these guys a few opening kills here. Trying to flush out the players inside of CCTV, but so far, the openings from NJR have failed to yield any results here, and just like we've seen them, angles being opened up from the bottom, they can be opened up from the top side as well here, as Hot and Cold will have the capability to fight out against shotgun holes that have been made, but NJR finally spotting the head out and going to be able to execute against Houghton after getting some great follow-through with another teammate moving in through East Main. Skies will respond, however, and pick up Panba to keep the numbers in the favor of SSG as we head into the final minute of play.
DarkZero's been boxed out of the map. They have to try and re-entry onto this top floor as NGR was the only one in the building, and he's inside of Customs. Hyper's going to work his way back towards top east. They do have the breach open on the other end, but Hyper's going to make that hole even larger. So he'll end up impacting that. A swing in the M590 bodies the Zofia. Poor Hyper will go down to Skies and his boomstick. Start dedicating some of those smokes to the hallway and continue to delay this DarkZero onslaught, or what more at least exists. Nitro Cell out, but Bosco will give his life for that as DarkZero able to at least pick up some semblance of this round, but this timer is dwindling. Had to get something done here. The case is on Eclipse. It looks like it's going to be a full-on box rush as SSG holding things down. Eclipse going to get lit up quite a lot. Rampy will be able to at least trade things out as it's all down to an Eclipse, and Skies will be able to remove him from play. Spacestation Gaming with quite the stand to start us off on defense.
You said it well at the midpoint of the round. Unfortunately, the members of SSG had been able to just box DarkZero out of play for the most part there from the site and from the building overall. So it took DarkZero way too much time to be able to line up the angles to flush out the CCTV players. And while, yes, they did ultimately kill them, they were able to find a few trades in the process. And because SSG did find that free pick to start the game off, well, they were able to trade it down to a victory at the end of the day there and hold on to the site quite confidently as the remaining members of DarkZero had no time remaining. Their final 2 players were forced to rush into the site, where I'm going to assume they were also at a bit of a lack for intel as to how lockers was set up. SSG already putting their feet on the ground here. Now I'm going to see if they can really dig it in by trying to take control of the ventilation site next to lock in a second round.
Very solid choice here from Spacestation, and surely a site that could have benefited heavily from a zombie being chosen as well. We've been seeing her used quite often in tandem with Castle to try and delay even more time and force the offense to give up utility at the cost of opening up an angle, which is just gorgeous. It's really, really nice to have on the defensive end, especially with an operator now that you can apply these Kiba barriers to anything that you see fit, and they'll end up blocking off an angle or anything else in between. Obviously, Castle's a little bit more rigid, but he's still available, and he's quite potent when it comes to Border, especially for the positioning that we see this Castle Barricade getting put out, something that pros in the previous version of Border really wanted. The ability to add Castle Barricades to that center hallway and break up that long angle for the top of East.
DarkZero out and about yet again. Let's see how their attempt to move forward will work out this time against SSG. SSG will keep the same general formula alive and well here, just changing it up as necessary to facilitate the downstairs hold in comparison to the lockers play. Panba already working his way in as well on the Finca, looking to quickly hunt down Houghton or anybody else from SSG that's going to be maintaining CCTV presence. Houghton gets the intel and quickly knocks off the head of Panba, removing not only the entry, of course, from DarkZero, but all the utility that would come with that Finca.
You know, it's things like that where you just wish that SSG made it to Charlotte, because it just seems like when they're on home soil and comfortable, Hot and Cold might be one of the nastiest men alive. He is so incredibly good. It just sucks that we can't get that when it comes to the international stages, but fortunately enough, Stage 2 seems to be ramping up for Spacestation here, especially on Border, looking like they're able to take it to DarkZero, at least for the time being, especially after that initial pick onto Pambazoo, slowing down one of the best players from Charlotte. Hyper now going to be holding things down when it comes to stock. Not too much pressure around the area when it comes to Spacestation's overall game plan at the moment. Skies will be inside of Customs, but he doesn't really need to do too much. He just needs to be present, doesn't need to swing any angles or anything of the sort, give his body over to the offense. Gonna have a nade in, it's gonna eat up some of Rampy's HP, but it's gonna be NJR that gets lit up more than anything.
NJR down to half HP, but both teams are somewhat stagnated right now. Okay, yeah, Sky just walks right up to a waiting Hyper. on the inside of the side closet here will be able to take him down, bring DarkZero's numbers to only 3 at this point. So SSG just with no fear at all to retake parts of this map and duel it out versus the members of DarkZero, who don't really seem sure of themselves, it looks like, so far inside of this game. NJR will change up that fate a little bit, though, as he's finally able to negotiate the first kill of the round for DZ by knocking out Skies, removing the mute as well from that extended jail, as well as Customs position.
Yes, indeed. Now Eclipse will dedicate himself to the drone to figure out what's going on inside of vents. NJR still has some positioning upstairs, but he doesn't have the truest of positions. He's inside of CCTV, and really what he wants control of is armory as well as archive, so he can actually use that sledgehammer to break up this top flooring, just like you see Rampy doing right now inside of the office area. A very nice angle held by him, and a dead Canadian now gifted over as he swings in to break. Grenade out from NJR. It's only going to get rid of the shield, though, so not really too much at the end of the day, and yet again, Spacestation Gaming. They have had such a solid defense. They've boxed DarkZero out yet again, looking like some 90s NBA action with these shots. Not a single person allowed to thrive when it comes to the paint. They'll take them all out. Spacestation Gaming on a burner right now for these first 2 rounds.
And for the most part here in round number 2, just kind of allowing DZ to make their own mistakes, whether it's being forced to make a play or just trying to clear something out, where a member of SSG was very much ready to fend off that challenge, either just by being in the correct position, as we see with this first pickup from Houghton, or in the case of Skies, in the eventual push later on in the round after he got killed as well here from Bosco, as you can see now on the smoke, just pushing directly into the path of the clear from DarkZero, because they either did not properly drone out the areas where SSG was holding, or were just otherwise oblivious to those positions. So great play from SSG to lock in a consistent second round. We'll see if they can get number 3 here and go for the full site rotation, as they'll try to lock in Tellers as that third and potentially final site before returning upstairs to lockers.
Yeah, Teller's not exactly the funnest site to defend, you could say. Bunch of different ways that the offense can affect this, especially with a window that goes directly to the outside that provides a pretty strong cross for DarkZero just straight up inside of the site, built right in. There's a lot of different ways that DZ can handle this, but mostly they're going to be looking to try and apply pressure to either this top floor or take control of this west side of the building. Try and take things across in towards like workshop and things along those lines, start working on those back walls so they can start looking for a plant of their own. We also see some teams try and get control of square so they can get the single panel for Tellers, which also can make things fairly easy going later into the round. Now for DarkZero, out and about yet again here, not too much of a change up, minus Hyper bringing in the IQ now to try and assist with some of these electronics.
DarkZero, much more measured approach this time, as we're not going to see anyone try to take that initial entry immediately off of the first 30 seconds, of course, but that will soon change as the team starting to line up the openings they need to get the initial control. At least you can see the opening towards jail, so that's a first option for them to start swinging in. But the priority, of course, will be upstairs to clear out the extended game from SSG if there is going to be any, in the office area directly above the Teller's sights.
A slow opener for DarkZero. No missteps allowed just yet. We are coming closer and closer to the sun here. Have the CCTV window open. Be worried about that. And also, if you haven't noticed, all of SSG running the Cybertruck Hollow as well. Seems like everyone's slowly being converted on this roster over to this new site, and it'll work out for him. Fultz to take down Eclipse early on, but NJR, luckily enough, has the refrag. Only issue is that these 2 kills, well, they don't operate the same. The kill under Rampy, yeah, sure, but his traps still stick around, and now with Buck down after Hot and Cold picks him up, I mean, they're even worse for wear. No hard breach, the case is down inside of CCTV. I mean, what's the next move for DZ? Oh. Canadian almost dies as well as he hops inside of sight. He's getting shot at from everywhere. He's off on his own island practically here inside of office.
Bit of a miracle Canadian makes it into there. The Nitro Cell to some extent saving his life just because it caught the members of SSG inside of an animation, but still another one thrown out here by Skies, and that one will sing true, able to knock out Hyper. Canadian, though, finally makes use of his forward position inside of office by picking up another frag against SSG, so DZ not out of this fight just yet. You'll see the style change from SSG, however, as they pull the remaining players back and are going to focus entirely on the site defense. No case control either, as we'll see DarkZero able to pick that up for themselves, and Canadian with an even better position now negotiates a second kill personally to be able to knock out Houghton and leave it all on Bosco and Skies downstairs.
Now this is where things could get extremely difficult. Canadian still has so much utility, including another Rotero drone on top of the one that he already used. So that's not only explosives, but that's also information on where Bosco and potentially Skies are. And speaking of Skies, 5-1-1 at the current moment. Looking much, much more solid. Has his footing in comparison to what position he was in yesterday. Already here, we're only in round 3. Pambazu's going to drop off of the balcony. Send out that little shot as they tried to cover up their drop noise. Frag grenade in, and it could have met up with Bosco, but he started moving just at the right time. The shotgun in. Oh, and the head of Bosco dipping back and forth. Pambazu ill-advised on that last swing as the M590 is in close quarters, and that's not something you want to dance with. Now it's all down to Canadian. He's just going to wait it out as more than likely DarkZero discuss what's going on inside of these rounds. SSG with the early dominance, and they're able to translate it through most of the round. Even past the picks, the DarkZero is still able to procure and try and even things out.
Great positioning on that goo mine as well to really help out Bosco inside of that final duel that potentially could have helped out DarkZero to win the round here. Pretty much acts as a siren call to which direction he's going to be moving in from, and doesn't really leave him any room because of the position of that goo mine as well as the lack of time overall in the round for them to actually fall back, take it out of his foot, and make another push. Just had to commit to it, and unfortunately with the sound cue, made it all too easy for Bosco to play around and run out the time. DZ are going to take that timeout that Stokes was just mentioning, so they'll go into that now and see if they can potentially try to come up with a new strategy on things as we're going to head back to the previous sites played now.
So I feel like we got to touch on all of our picks at this point. It's 3-0.
It's not looking good.
Yeah, it's not looking too hot. You know, it's just
the unfortunate events account is just warming it up right now. He's already got it ready to rock and roll.
He's
just waiting for the 7th round to go on the board at this point.
Yeah, it's a little painful. You know, I walked into the day with 100% pick rate. I still had it through 2 games. Third game, it's kind of a toss-up between Parabellum and Astralis. I went Astralis. You kind of have to
Everybody
in that situation, right?
On that one too, I'm pretty sure. So,
but except for except for the Canadian, Intero, as I almost forget his alias and not his real name. Yeah, so he's the only one to end up going Parabellum. But I'm super, super happy for them. You can clearly tell the amount of work that they put in with that roster, especially with the new faces that they have on it. But past that, this series right here, this is the one that's really catching me off guard. I thought DarkZero was going to walk into this with their heads held pretty high, especially from what we saw from them yesterday. But Spacestation had something in store for them.
Oh, absolutely the case. Specifically here on Border, it seems like they were very much ready to play this out from the defensive side. We'll have to see if that holds true going over to the attack, as that could be a bit of a different beast to properly handle on a map like Border because of how small it is and how much aggressive capability the defenders generally have because of that map freedom. Away from that, we did see a little bit of a repick inside of our normal pick phase, of course, there from SSG to swap in hot and over towards the Frost, which is not an operator we tend to see all that often, even though we've seen overall the Frost pick rate kind of skyrocket in the last year or so. Border is not necessarily the map where we've come to expect that. So
I personally love the pick, though, for the position that he's playing, because it makes it to where the DarkZero members have to deal with that Frost utility or risk hopping in to try and get aggressive and splitting it between, are you going to be shot from Frost or are you going to be taken out by her mat? That's what she always puts you into. It's a pretty difficult situation when it actually does work out for you, but obviously if those do get droned out, it should be a fairly straightforward affair for DayZ. And speaking of droning things out, Canadian is going to hop to on the Rotero drone, speaking of which, so has the opportunity to get rid of a few of these harder to reach pieces of utility.
Still looking around, trying to see if he can suss out some of the drones that are working their way in from DZ while still maintaining a strong position against any clear that the DarkZero camp may try to go for. It looks like we've got one of those potentially being lined up right now on the rappel. However, that player is also paying attention to any runouts that may come from the main wall leading into the site also. So we need to pay more attention to that than anything else at this point, but the priority will soon shift onto clearing out that player on the inside of CCTV. First minute is gone. NGR starting to establish some bottom-up angles to try and spot out this player. However, we're going to continue to see these guys deploy out towards that. See Canadian calling out that he's got a stuck drone, but unfortunately we are mid-round, so just in case anyone's curious, we are definitely not going to be rehosting this late into it.
Super unfortunate for Canadian as he's simply stuck in the Rotero drone. I'm pretty sure NJR is going to get taken down by Hot, and just to remind you guys, since Canadian is indeed stuck in this, that means that this is effectively a 5 versus 3 for Spacestation Gaming. DarkZero's already taken their time out as well, so they cannot stop this train any longer. Hyper's going to be holding on to things here. He'll get rid of the proximity sensor, but he's got so many people lying in the wings at the current moment, it could potentially take him out. But SSG don't want to move just yet. The Cone 6 out for Pambazu to get rid of some info. Utility inside of 90. DarkZero are just trying to find any pick they can, but as you can see, Spacestation does not want to give any of this up.
Just under a minute to go. Why would they? As they've been playing into this type of style for pretty much the entire game so far. Just sitting back, waiting for DarkZero, especially on this upstairs side as well, to kind of make their own mistakes. Waiting for them to make the play here and walk into the setup from SSG. They're on defense. They're allowed to do that. So indeed, we'll continue to see them wait this out as DarkZero, unfortunately, struggling to find the confidence needed to go for this site play. Out of the nature of time, though, they are going to be forced into it sooner rather than later. With only 20 seconds left to play, they've got to try to make a bid for something. And it looks like they are going to try to go in through archives and see if that'll work out for them there. Bosco has already shut down Eclipse, though. The first player trying to work their way in. Hyper is probably next up to bat as he needs to try and negotiate forward to pick up the case, but he can't even get that far. Bosco knocks him out. Time quickly running down as well here. DZ looking to get anything they can, but with the time going down to 0 and Canadians still suffering from that drone bug, there's not a whole lot they can do. So SSG take this around.
4-0. 4-0 on the defensive side of border. This is turning into quite the space station affair, if I do say so myself. Very unfortunate circumstances there for DZ inside of that last round, but obviously since it's 15 seconds past the initial part of the round, no rehost available. That's just the rules, and it's very unfortunate that they had to end up falling into that pretty deep hole. But past that, now SSG up 4 rounds as we enter the tech pause. Their defensive end looking so very stellar here on border, constantly controlling the ebb and flow of this map and overly complicating things for DZ to where they can't clear things out, not even really able to get a foothold without risking a few bodies.
Should be a pretty quick reset here, folks. We're just going to allow Canadian to hop into the game real quick and reset his client so that he can make sure there's a minimal chance of that happening again. And we'll hop right back into the game afterwards. But indeed, it has been very one-sided here for SSG so far at 4-0 and playing a pretty straightforward defense to make it all happen, too. Not really overplaying their hand in any department, shifting the players around from time to time. Yes, you kind of have to with a roaming defense, especially when it's being droned out constantly, but still, always seeing the DarkZero players walk into these setups seemingly with the intel necessary to take the members of SSG out, but just cannot win any of these opening engagements. So always fighting from the back foot, it seems, on quite a few of these rounds so far.
Yes, indeed. It's just time and time again, DarkZero always having to try and clamber back into the round. It's not them having, any real early game that they get to try and translate into a mid-round. They're always fighting from the downward position, and that makes things so very difficult, especially on a map like Border, where the response time from the defense is so very high. I mean, they're practically on top of each other all the time. So it just makes things pretty difficult for DZ at the end of the day, and that's what they've been having to deal with. So finally have things ready, and Canadian back in the lobby. So we're going to be jumping back into the map here momentarily, folks, as well for this defensive setup. Looks like SSG wants to head back down to the exact same site that they had in their last rotation. It's going to be their second site. It's going to be Ventilation Workshop.
Yeah, SSG are dictating state of play right now, so no reason why they would deviate from that and try to throw us a curveball over towards Customs. They're going to head into Vent now and try to lock in the same exact sites they got on the first 3 rounds, already well on their way of doing so. After claiming the upstairs site for a second time, we'll see how they do on the downstairs holds, where obviously DarkZero is going to have a little bit more room to play just because the defense will be spread a bit more thinly across the map, so maybe a greater capability to catch some of these roaming members of SSG and shut them down before they can get away with too much. But so far, unfortunately for DarkZero, that has not worked out too well.
No, it really hasn't. And now they're going to try and change some things up to hopefully escape their fate, which seems to be SSG taking all of these defensive rounds. I'm hopeful for DZ this time around, though. They've made some adjustments across the board. Hyper will be on the buck this time around instead of NJR, so you'll most likely see him around, well, actually, potentially the top floor. There's a lot of different ways they could use this because they have the sledge and the buck, so there's a bunch of different potential here for DZ. Excited to see how this one goes, but hopefully we can maintain NJR and Hyper through this early round, given the circumstances of what we've seen.
Pama keeping watch for any runouts. Just being careful in case SSG wanted to grow to that extra level of confidence. Haven't really seen them work towards any play like that up to this point in the half so far, but no reason why they wouldn't potentially try to reignite themselves into it, considering the massive lead they have over DZ right now. So just making sure they cover all of their assets in the event that SSG really want to throw a curveball at the DarkZero roster. Looking like it's very much the same thing from SSG, though, as they're going to continue to maintain their extended presence all across the map here and just kind of wait out the execute from DZ. See if they can catch 1 or 2 players in the opener, cull back those extensions into the site, and then play out the rest of the round their numbers advantage. That's been the winning strategy up until this point. Bosco, though, really runs himself into a member of DZ, but he steals the kill right back against Hyper. DZ just cannot get away with anything in this game right now, as Bosco instead gets the opening kill.
No way.
With a shot! Oh, yeah. Houghton with a chance to maybe pick up a second one there, but Panba will stop the ridiculousness of this situation now and bring us back down to a 4v4.
Like double-out buckshot inside of that M590. My God, man, get off Bioshock. Ridiculous stuff happening here. DarkZero, they've at least been able to equalize with the kill on the hot and cold. Canadian's going to clamber back down east stairs. Knows that one's inside of custom, so could try to go to deal with that situation, but he's more than likely going to want some help from his DZ members. Also, does he know that there's another SSG player that's near Tellers? Well, not really going to matter after Skies is going to give up the goods. And now DarkZero have the man advantage for, I believe, the very first time.
Indeed. We're going to see if they can keep it there, though, as Rampy picks up a nice kill here to be able to equalize things. Looking like he wants to fight for more, too, but the low HP is certainly going to hurt his chances inside of this scenario. The good news is, even if he goes down now, he's still wasting a massive amount of time, and by ducking and diving back to the inside of the office, DarkZero are going to have to keep someone on constant overwatch for that to make sure that he doesn't flank them later on in this round here. A lot of time being wasted, already bled off a good 15-20 seconds, but it does look like DZ are getting back on track now and are focusing on getting ready to hop in to go for the execute.
After clearing out some of the initial pieces of utility around the direct part of the site, DarkZero have to start getting themselves into the actual thing. You can see Eclipse trying to round his way through the center hallway. Rampy, oh, does he realize he's so very close to death at this current moment? Eclipse, he's actually going to be able to make his way inside. The drop shot will work out for Rampy as he's bouncing back and forth. NJR will be able to equalize it down to a 2 versus 2. SSG has found some presence upstairs from the likes of Fultz, though, and that Bailiff, who'll be able to at least deal some damage, but on very low time, NJR must start this plant. They're watching the drop. Pambazoo, he's trying to hold onto this angle for as long as humanly possible. Fultz trying to find NJR through the flooring, but he won't be able to. He's going to have to try and win it out as a 3 armor inside of a 1v2 situation. A lot of bullets to his name, though. It's a pretty solid opportunity at the end of the day. A pre-fire, he'll take out 1, and this is the damning factor of the Alda. Look, still 20 bullets inside of this thing. He can practically play the same way around this situation. Knows that 1 is close. He knows that he has to be playing around this server stack. The shot's constantly going back and forth. He knows he's got to swing, but Pambazoo also has bullets, and that's the problem. Those LMGs, you can constantly hog up the angle. And finally, it'll come down to a DarkZero round that'll claim for the very first time here on Border.
Such a delicate dance between both teams as we got down to the 3v3 and moved further in from that. So many close shaves on both sides, but starting from the very beginning of the round right here with this attempted kill against Bosco, he flips it around, picks it up instead, and then it is a volley from that point forward. Players constantly being stolen away from either team, but DarkZero just barely manages to edge it out in their favor there in that 1v1. And take the control they finally have been looking for throughout this entire half here. 1-4 is the scoreline, but still an opportunity now for SSG to lock in the 5-1, which is very, very tough for DarkZero to come back from here if they can take control of this final Teller's defense. DarkZero, though, really coming alive in that last round. We've got a great chance for them to make it 4-2 and keep this competitive as we flip sides.
Yeah, and I mean, past that, you're really looking to Hyper and Eclipse to wake up here a little bit. You know, NJR already 7-5, Pambazoo and Canadian are at least, you know, pulling some of this weight, but it's been a struggle bus for most of this team when it comes to a lot of these rounds. SSG, very dynamic, as well as their ability to close down a lot of these early kills, forcing DarkZero into some difficult straits has really been the name of the game so far for them. We'll see if they're able to accomplish this yet again here with round 6. And this Teller's defense. It's going to be extended out towards the west-hand side, but that's to be expected. We're also going to have the Oryx along for the ride here in the likes of Rampy. Looks like we're going to have a rehost here. Never mind.
Okay.
I think we're good to go. So we're there for just a split second, but we will indeed be able to finish out this half.
I think the whole team to spam the nevermind, okay, just to make sure we didn't pull the trigger on that too quickly. SSG, though, going to continue to play into this round, so potentially just thinking they were dealing with something that wasn't actually the case. See, Fultz, though, is going to miss his opportunity to Electric Claw out this wall. It will be popped open from the Selmas. Not that he really would have been able to get into the way of that. Regardless, they go off just a little bit too quickly to actively mitigate it with the Claw, but still could have avoided that second opening. Unfortunately, won't be the case this time. He's had to fall back, and will have to more than likely do so again now, as he's been spotted out by that drone in the side closet.
Well, it's about to be the first minute off the board here. After that, really not too much going on. DarkZero sticking to their guns with their opening strategy, slow and steady with this drone game, trying to consistently hit their mark, but as we've been talking about, hasn't necessarily been the easiest thing to do. Let's go on the rest of SSG, simply awaiting their arrival. They're going to hold on to these pivotal parts of the map and force DarkZero to take it away from them, and that includes Hot and Cold, who's currently sitting inside of Supply. That was a nice watch here onto Jail, the breach that has been opened inside of it. Don't believe that any of the DarkZero members are even aware that Hot and Cold is in this position. They rotate through the hole, should more than likely check things out over in that space. There was a drone here inside of the door frame for Jail for just a moment, so could have potentially have seen the castle, and actually I think it's Canadian that's intended to kill this man at the current moment, but actually not even going to look through the new breach that he made. So yes, indeed, no one aware that Hot and Cold was only moments away from catching yet another DarkZero body.
Once again, that very delicate dance between both teams has come alive for the first 2 minutes of this round. Both teams desperately looking for a target, but as you can see, neither one able to actually negotiate it. Just little bits of damage onto both NJR and Rampy from either side of the coin here, and nearly identical in the amounts that are given as well. Houghton, though, and the rest of SSG, this is playing into their hands ultimately, unless DZ is building up a massive intel bank in the process that they're going to be able to use to execute into the site. That may very well be the case as Hyper executes Fultz and was seemingly already ready to catch another player on the transition over towards the bathroom. Skies exchanges that back out, though. Keeps the numbers at an even keel, down to a 4v4. Rampy waits for the next target to potentially hop in through Tellers. He's so close to getting that angle, but it won't present itself to him. Instead, Hyper will get himself a second. Eclipse pushes forward, but no, you're in the smoke. He's going to go down because of that. DZ's kills, they won't matter if they can't retrieve the case, but NGR on this back flank may have just saved the round.
Oh, Rampy!
Rampy sniping one out through the wall. He's going to keep the hopes of SSG alive in this situation, as now Panba's the only one left for DarkZero. Rampy should hear the case plant sounds. He's going to make a play for it. We're on zero timer, and he's found the planter. So the final round of the half goes to SSG.
5-1 Space Station Gaming. They can delay so very long with this defensive strategy. They keep DarkZero inside of the customs area of the map for such an incredible amount of time, constantly having to try and deal with Hot and Cold, and back and forth they dance inside of that area until finally he falls back, and they are able to at least claim that. But once they start working their way towards site, there's really nothing there for them. They're constantly punished by SSG as they're trying to move throughout the map. And yes, DarkZero are eventually able to equalize, but the positioning was too strong for Space Station there. I will give them the benefit of the doubt in this situation that Rampy just so happens to be a god and he killed somebody through a random wall, but that's just Rainbow Six Siege at the end of the day. Sometimes the walls shoot back, and that's exactly what we saw there for DZ. So unfortunate in that regard, but Rampy just so happened to be a god once again for Space Station in that situation, able to shut things down inside of the 1 versus 2, but it took the rest of Space Station to even give him that opportunity. So hats off to the entire squad for that one. As we switch sides, Space Station will be up 5-1.
Yep, SSG only needs 2 out of the 6 remaining rounds to be able to lock in a victory for themselves here. And if they can do it quickly enough, that'll be in a barnstorming fashion against the current major champions here. A massive turnaround for SSG considering the result that they faced yesterday versus Xset. Already looking to get their feet back on the ground, back into the top 4 as they try to claim yet another major spot for themselves after missing out on the more recent one.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to be severely disappointed in DarkZero if they end up losing this in such a grandiose fashion, because, you know, it took all the way down to them making the finals of Charlotte for me to be like, okay, I have faith. I'm ready.
It's the same for me.
I didn't even have faith for them, going up against SSG inside of the last stage to make it to Charlotte. They win the whole dang thing, and then I put faith into them, and then this happens. I feel like I'm just a bad omen for them. I just got to leave Troy and everybody else alone, let them win their games, and always go against them. I guess I'm just the caster's curse.
So we can see here, DarkZero waiting for the first steps to be made by SSG. DarkZero at the same time throwing us a little bit of an interesting choice with regards to their opening site play. They're going to go over towards Tellers, which is the complete opposite in terms of a choice for what SSG had gone towards as the expected start over on the inside of Lockers. DarkZero maybe wanting to test themselves a little bit here, but this is very possibly their best defensive site, which is going to be obviously very unfortunate if it doesn't go their way, considering it will already set up SSG's match point if we see them able to control this one. But similarly to DarkZero, they are taking this first half of the round incredibly slowly, looking to play off of intel and look for something like that, where Fultzer, another member of the team, waiting on these exterior angles, are going to be gifted a member of the DarkZero running across. Yeah, keep in mind, we're upstairs right now, so still going to need to make that transition down, and Skies as well will have another wall between himself and Eclipse here. Though Eclipse seemingly ready for the engagement, he's going to try to rotate himself in, quickly losing teammates though, but this insertion in behind that computer desk may have been the ace move that him and the rest of his squad needed here to be able to pick up a few kills. Let's see though if they're going to be ready for him as they wrap the corner. They are. Sky still taking him down, and despite the sneaky insertion, it is not enough. It's a flawless round, in fact, from SSG, as nothing is stopping them in this game. They rock right through the initial defensive setup from DZ, and like I said, are already up on map and match point.
We only had the lens of what was going on the top floor, and that was already so very destructive. SSG then double down and kill off everybody downstairs. How? How do you do that? They just walk in the building and it's like, DarkZero, I will just buy that. You just take it off the shelf. It's fine. It's okay. This is our building, and we're willing to fight for it, and they most definitely have. DarkZero only able to confirm a singular round so far, and it's not from a lack of trying either. I mean, they're seriously swinging for the fences in a lot of these different situations, and SSG are prepared for all of it. Now, I will say this, Spacestation in relation to yesterday, they are playing so much more coordinated than we saw. Absolutely. It is very, very strong. I'm really liking this border pick here for Spacestation. Honestly, down the line, some teams might not want to allow this through the ban phase when it comes to this squad.
Definitely a possibility here with the way that SSG have been able to play it, as well as just the proficiency they've had on multiple sites, too. It's not like this team was, like, really good on their defaults, and then they're, like, a little hit or miss for the defenses as they extend out. No, they were rock solid on every single site choice that we saw SSG make in the first half.
Yeah, and that's even including Tellers, which is a site that's super difficult because it gives the offense so much room to work with.
Which again is not, sorry to interrupt you, which again is kind of begging the question as to why DZ were so gung-ho to play into that site moving into the second half like I said before. Probably one that they felt that they were very good at, but as we saw, didn't really seem like it, as SSG just waltzed right through that entire defensive line.
Well, that's a big thing. You know, if Space Station have the block set on the west-hand side of the map, right, then you just shove things from the east and you get those big picks. When they start to try and fall back towards site, they're dead anyways. Good luck trying to make it out. Exactly, exactly. It's kind of like what we talk about when we talk about like top floor clears when it comes to Clubhouse in the roam game. You always want to have somebody set up to be flushed towards. That's always a really, really big deal. Yeah, you might be able to clear the roam game, but did you kill anybody? That's what really matters in Rainbow Six. When you're able to get those big frags and take utility pieces and another gun away from people, it really does matter, especially with a kill like that from Canadian. He takes down Rampy. That's the Finka off the board. And as John said earlier into the day, the field medic now gone.
Going to be able to remove that capability from SSG. Didn't touch on it just yet, of course, but we've got the Track Stingers operator in play here at the moment for... Was that intentional? That was the funniest thing ever.
But it actually worked so well.
That's like at a pretty good spot. It's like right at the top of metal stairs, I'm pretty sure.
It's literally like peering right into the angle for... Look at this. This is actually gorgeous. This is actually so very well placed that it was completely on accident.
That's so funny. All right, well, back into the round here. DZ shutting it down this time here, but it's both Eclipse and then again, Hyper shutting in two more members of the SSG roster. Bosco and Hotner, all that remains. You're going to see Bosco get denied here as he tries to open up the west wall just a bit. Fortunately, Mute Jammer still sitting on the other side of that, so won't be able to do so. Hotton, though, snipes out Canadian. Beautifully shot. Unfortunately, a far cry in terms of changing up the rest of this round at the moment for SSG, but still a pleasure to watch. Panba shuts down the only other member alive at the moment for SSG as Bosco is knocked out, so everything falls to Hotton. It would need to be an ace clutch in order for them to end the game here.
Yes, indeed. And Houghton won't be able to at least get the initial one. Knows another one's deep inside of Archives. Will work his way back towards the other angle, but he should be getting swamped here momentarily, at least from the lead department. As yet another kill here inside of Archives, and well, actually one down, another one to go inside of this area. The pre-fire and almost the dub from Houghton. Was pretty close there for just a moment, but Hyper's gonna let him know. Feeds that body a few extra bullets after the fact, as DZ will finally get their second round on the board.
Yeah, thankfully it was Hyper waiting around the corner there, who had also kind of gone off this game. Look at this, that was so funny. Hyper throws that down, and it's actually in a pretty okay position. It's even looking the right way, too, so well played there.
Just one of the boys, you know? It's like,
welcome to the party.
There you go. Armory Lockers will be the next site for DarkZero. And again, like we were talking about earlier, this site's going to work out pretty well for DZ because they can hold on to a lot more of the map without having to deal with a massive portion of it being practically gifted over to the offense if they want it. So we'll have to see what is going to happen here for the defensive setup for DarkZero. I'm expecting almost like a Pulse play or something down low, or potentially the Oryx. I really like that as well. Just something that can work its way around this map and either get you some info or at least be able to circumnavigate a couple of the holds that the offense has going on. They're going to drop the gridlock. I like this a lot. So they're going to be bringing the Lion along for the ride. And they'll have Fultz in here with the Jackal. So have some solid information on board to try and get this last round over on DZ.
See if they're going to be able to accomplish that. Is actually going to see them bring back their initially picked away operator for Houghton there, so he's going to bring the Trek Stinkers back into it once again. Interesting choice. And now, yeah, for Fultz, that's the real interesting one for me. Is they're going to swap in a Cali.
Wait for 3 seconds. Hold on. Don't say a word yet.
I think it's happening. This is happening.
It's locked in.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, you can't pick past 3 seconds.
They picked the Kali.
Fultz has a Kali. Now this right here, little awkward for DarkZero. But I think the big thing to notate about this is that Fultz, rifle, pretty solid. You know, it one-shot downs, but as we've all grown to know with Kali, it's just not that good of a gun when it comes to Rainbow Six. You'd much rather have something that has a lot more bullets and you don't have to just hit a person one time and then put another round into the chamber. But the secondary pistol, very strong. Also the Lancer, very good at getting open walls. But the thing about that, John, DarkZero's already opened quite a few of these walls for them. Yeah. So Kali, at the end of the day, really not going to matter when it comes in here unless Fultz does something incredible with this rifle.
I'm imagining this was brought almost entirely for the West main clear, but we'll have to wait and see, as I think that there's a possibility that that wall was left soft too, in which case there was absolutely 0 point in bringing the Kali into play here. But we'll hold our words a bit here and see what exactly Fultz is going to be able to negotiate with this as we get into a later point in the round. More so than anything, I want to see if that rifle and or the utility finds a real home point for SSG to really lock it in and be able to get themselves access to a deeper point on the map.
I mean, I'm always down for a sniper clip in any game. That's just one of the things that feeds the soul, I would say, when it comes to competitive FPSs. So for Ramp 8, the rest of SSG setting themselves up around the east end, not nearly as proactive as they were inside of the first round where we saw them take it to DZ, and same you could say about the last round, even though DZ ended up winning things out. Starting to work their way in towards the office now. Hyper with a nice angle here, but there could be a mishap depending on how Eclipse wants to play this out. You always get a little worried when you see those cross angles starting to be adopted by the same teammates. Canadian, though, his strategy, or at least his plan of action at the current moment, is to hold down Archives. That's what his dedication's here for. Nitro Cell in hand, so he can potentially help with some of this office push as that Lancer will get rid of the mute jammer. Is waiting for the sound of the radio entry, but nobody's going to hop in as they have the Selma, so not going to matter too much. They'll open that up, and Canadian will try and coexist in this area, but he's going to get droned out very quickly, so maybe won't last as long as I initially thought.
Does have some additional support from behind Fountain as well, so that could get aggressive and try to fend off some of the pressure coming from this window hop. And as you said, Canadian's going to try to play both sides of this, but he won't be allowed to, as Rampy lands a beautiful nade right on top of Canadian. God. Okay, now I'm starting to see where this rifle can make its impact here, as Hyper now has to pretty much permanently stay prone, and even then, I'm not sure if it's a guarantee that the Kali can't shoot him from there. A few more of those shots starting to ring out from deeper positions as they try to harass out the members of DarkZero, make them fear this rifle long enough to allow the members of SSG in and go for a plant. Fultz actually knocking out one, and Rampy beautifully sniped out as well, as he's going to take down NJR. Hyper taking a shot from that sniper also. It's working out beautifully as SSG close out the game with a flawless round and a beautiful use of Kali as well.
I will take a gorgeous game from Skies and a big dub for SSG. up against my prediction. I'm very, very happy for SSG in this regard. Yesterday was definitely kind of a blunder there for them, and to be able to come back and play, so proactively as well as so synced after a game like what we saw yesterday, they definitely got to be pretty happy about that. They just defeated DarkZero of all rosters in North America in such a convincing fashion on a map like Border. Very well done from them, but for DZ, got to go back to the drawing board on this one.
Yep, SSG, though, with the pretty much immediate rebound from yesterday, as you were mentioning here, so an incredibly impressive show being put up from them. Skies as well, you also mentioned this, a massive improvement over yesterday's game, where, let's be honest, he was struggling a little bit, only picked up 3 kills in the opening game versus XSET. Not a problem, though, as today he brings everything to the table here, and overall, SSG looked like the complete package in today's game. Border's definitely going to be one that other teams may be wanting to avoid in the future, but for us, we're going to finish things up for now, ladies and gentlemen. That'll do it for the two of us today. We're going to throw it to a quick break. When we come back, your analysis desk will be ready to break this game down.
Just another sunny day in Southern California. It's where the people came to play. Don't let them transform you. Oh, come and see what you've been missing.
Oh no, we joked about the whole moments before disaster thing when everybody in the world and the coin picked DarkZero, and you know what? Spacestation Gaming said, we don't care. We're gonna win it anyway. They played brilliantly, and I'm not gonna say cast or curse, nothing like that. No, that was just Spacestation Gaming being great, beating DarkZero, beating the reigning champs 7-2. It was a stomp.
Spacestation Gaming media guy, please spare us. We did not mean to all predict against you, but you don't need to post that as a screenshot. It's okay.
I already did.
Post it as a screenshot. It's
I already did.
So what I'm looking at here
I'm not afraid.
is an understanding that we need to do a little bit better on predictions by also accounting what side is on here. I'm saying that if only because It's border, it's a best of one, you have a guarantee of playing only one full half, and when you do, it better be the preferred half. And SSG made the most of that first half. If it was a 5-1, look at what they did here.
I mean,
I think so.
I don't think DarkZero starting the defense or starting on attack was supposed to be some sort of a bad omen for them. DarkZero are the most successful attacking team in the world, and they got one round against SSG on border. There was nothing really that was connecting for DarkZero, especially when they were trying to get those opening engagements. And there's one thing I said after my prediction is a little amendment that said, we need to see Rampy stepping up on those opening kills on defense. Too often throughout last stage and throughout just yesterday, he was dying early on those roams. That didn't happen at all in this matchup. He started off the game, he got the very first kill, roaming there on border, and then continuing on from there. I don't believe he had a single opening death on defense. No, he did not. So, really impressive stuff by Rampy, playing a little bit more with his team. They were doing an excellent job securing those opening frags.
It just kind of felt like they were everywhere on defense to start up. I love their rotations. I love how they opted to make sure that they were in different corners with fallback plans towards side if they needed it. And most of it just centered on classic border CCTV, because that was where a lot of those positions were, especially like rounds 1 and 4, when they decided they needed to open up rotations plus sight lines around that 90 position, back towards Fountain, quick access back to Metal. There's a hatch right there in case they need it. They can be anywhere at a moment's notice on a map like this. And if you're not playing this like you played Coastline back in the day, where it's roam-centric and you need the attackers to clear those roamers out before worrying about your side attack, then you're not necessarily doing a good job with it unless you're able to hit sight and you're not concerned about those roamers. But SSG were making their presence felt all over the map right now.
Well, talk about roaming. Let's take a look at some replays here from that last map. Let's talk about round 1 specifically. That's kind of where things got off to a good roaming start for Space Station Gaming, isn't that right?
Yeah, so we're upstairs. This is the setup that I'm talking about specifically. You might call it default, but I still like it. It's where you've got a hole opened up in CCTV that looks right into detention, which is what Hot and Cold's watching. But the fallback plan over to his left is comprised of a rotate back into 90, another one to Fountain, a sight line that looks at the door, which is where Rampy is positioned right here with Hot and Cold right next to him. Look at how much space he's able to get from that. He can watch like 7 different things, and he's got Hot and Cold who can move into position with him at a moment's notice. There's just so much coverage there, and it takes DarkZero a long time to not only figure out where these guys are at, but where they might rotate to, as most of them are situated on the top floor for this.
Typically, DarkZero and their attacks like to isolate roamers. They like to solo pick them off one by one, and they like to gain that man advantage early and fast when they're on the attacking half. But they really couldn't do so here on border, and I feel like part of that is the map. Just the fact that you can't really roam as an individual on this. You have to kind of play with your team. There's a lot of that going back and forth from SSG. They did a really good job at playing around there. And it was interesting as well, Space Station, when we've seen them play border in the past, in the Gamers Without Border tournament, we saw a ton of a zombie being brought out. Didn't see it all the time when they were being played here on border this time around. So clearly already adaptations being made. I thought that was nice.
Wait, if it was Gamers Without Border, how could they be playing border? That sounds like some format issues.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying.
I'll answer Jesse's question
on.
and gloss over the pun. Didn't see her because she was banned by DZ in this game.
Well, there you go.
Well,
So
there you go.
specifically, that's the reason. Like, good job. But yeah.
Yes.
Who's paying attention in that one? Well, anyway, let's move on to our next round, the final round of this particular game between DarkZero and Space Station. This one, we're going to look at some interesting picks coming through on the side of Space Station.
Yeah, I like talking about anomalies, but if you look over on the left-hand side of your screen, Hot and Cold's playing Gridlock, Fultz picks the Cali. Talking with Penguin in the green room, he really, really thinks that if for some reason the Thatcher is banned, you gotta find a time to run the Cali. The reason that Canadian dies there, he had a mute jammer specifically situated on the A single panel wall right next to the window as soon as you vault in, and that means that as soon as the Cali Lance destroys it, you've got even more free reign to open that up. Use the Selma charge, get it open, and you have an instantaneous sight line. Hot and Cold has also utilized Gridlock a lot on this map. Back in that 7-5 loss to Astralis in Stage 1, that was what he played more often than not. If it wasn't Osa, as well as, sorry, it was Skies who used it. So Space Station are already very accustomed to the idea of bringing different operators on sites like this. We don't get the chance to see Grid very often, which, by the way, if anyone from Ubisoft is listening for the next season, can we please add the F90 to another operator? That'd be great, thank you. But I do love how they decide to try different operators that we don't see in the pool very often, and in cases like that with a Kali in at the same time, even if it's just for destroying one mute jammer, look at how much impact that created. That's a sight line from that window that goes all the way through to the opposite bomb site and gets stopped by a hard wall after it travels about 70 miles. So there's plenty of space for them to work with if they have a Kali in that instance.
Yeah, true enough. And you love to see it too. You love seeing teams kind of adapt on the fly, bringing things in that other teams are not expecting per se. But one more thing we want to look at is some stats from the DarkZero side of things. Obviously, it was a little bit rough, but Jesse, you want to talk about Panbazoo in particular? The Pamba party was canceled today.
It was. There was a rainout, and the party couldn't get underway. We saw Panbazoo, usually being that main player on DarkZero, is able to get in aggressive and get those early picks on attack. And he still tried. He was rocking the Finca back when DarkZero last played Border. That was, of course, once again in the major grand finals against Astralis. Panbazoo dropped an insane 8 kills through 6 attacking rounds. He was very, very effective. This time, however, that was cut in half. He only got 4 kills through the first 6 rounds and was really struggling in those opening engagements. Lost 1 in round number 2 against Hot and Cold. His teammates all falling around him as well in rounds 1 through 5. They were really, really struggling to find that entry, and that's usually Panbazoo's job. He's usually the guy to step up and try to accomplish those tasks. Now, speaking of players getting 8 kills on attack for this map, NJ actually did get 8, but they were way fewer, they were way less impactful than what we saw from Panbazoo previously in that last engagement on Border. So unfortunate that DarkZero weren't able to get things going. That's just really, again, a testament to how strong we've seen DarkZero's attacks been in the past versus today, where they really just weren't up to snuff.
I mean, it's kind of like what we were saying earlier, right? Where everyone did end up picking DarkZero, but I think we all kind of said, in this matchup, it doesn't really matter what the standings are. It doesn't matter what the most recent results are. These teams are always going to be competitive against each other, and today was absolutely Space Station's day.
And that's just going to happen sometimes, right? I mean, SSG are still an amazing team, even if they're old. Listen, even though they're not, like, they're probably the only team in the league right now that haven't been picking up like young, fresh Challenger League gunners. They've been sticking with their guys that they've had for a long time, or they've at least been in the scene for a long time. But they've been successful with it, and they still are former world champions for a reason, and they can hang with the big dogs. It's NAL.
How many other times are we going to keep referencing them as like former world champions? Because I feel like we say that every time.
It's the first time we've said it all year.
No, I doubt it.
We'll sort this out as we get ready for our next series. The final one of the day is going to be Oxygen taking on Beast Ghost. Don't miss it. Last map of the NAL for this week coming at you right after this.